I'm Marilyn Spirit Level. I wanted to come to you today and share with you some information that I think will be very helpful when you're out on the streets talking to strangers about the flat earth. And strangers are just friends you haven't met yet. So always think of it that way, and then you won't be inhibited. And I have met a lot of new friends through the flat earth movement, and so I can attest to that. So no matter what you're doing, you have your family, your job, and sharing flat earth should be very, very high on the list. If you're out doing experiments or tests, as they call them now, observations, sure, those are fun to watch, but we do know that the earth is flat, so they're not necessary, but those also can be used as a tool. There's a test going on right now. I have it on my computer over there in case something exciting happens. I can see it. But so they can do that experiment or that test, and they can take it to Easter dinner with their family. It's a family tradition. I know you can argue if it's legitimate or not, but when the family gets together, take that along and say, look what I just did, and play that for your family. And that is your witness. That is your tool to get them to talk about and accept flat earth. So yeah, I'm not going to condemn what anybody does. I just say the first priority in flat earth should be sharing it with others. So I have some things I've been well, there's a question I want to help you to answer when you talk to people. And it's one of those questions that when you first hear it, you go, what? Like, you can't even believe they're asking that. And the question is something like, well, what does flat earth matter to me? How is that going to change my life? And, you know, the first time you hear that, you just don't know how to handle that. It's like, you know, we kind of got it, didn't we? We got that question. We understood that when we accepted flat earth as truth, we knew we had to share this with other people. We knew it was important. We knew it was significant, and it was life-changing. So when people say that it doesn't matter, it like shakes us, and we don't quite know how to deal with that. So we have to accept that there's other people who may not have been grounded as we are, or brought up on principles or value principles, or we have to try to understand where they're coming from so that we can find a way to get close enough to them to reach them. And that's what you have to do. You, if you have the time, if you're in a group of people, I just dismiss some of those people because I don't want them to interfere with those of the other group who are ready to accept or willing and already have gotten to that point. But if I'm one-on-one with somebody, I will talk to them, and you have seen that in the last video I did with BL Flea Market. Yeah, there was a guy there I spent a lot of time with, and to my detriment because somebody else was listening, and then he cursed at me. So after the other guy left, but that's okay. So so the question is, what does it matter to me? What does it matter? What does flat earth matter? How's that going to change my life? So I had to get down to the basics, the very core of the issue. And I have my little prop here, and I cut this up because I put them in my omelets and whatnot. And onions and red peppers and spinach and all that good stuff. So here we have an onion. Now, when you cut onions, you get a little tear because it's got that consistency that it stings your eyes, and that's exactly what happens when you peel off the layers. Okay? And why do you want to peel off the layers? Because you want to get to the core of the issue. The core is in here. Okay? The root of the problem. So to peel these off, you think, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. It's going to hurt. And yes, it does. But that's what you have to do. That's why there are people with addictions, because they think this is going to hurt them worse than getting rid of the addiction. So they don't want to peel off these layers. But until you get to the core, you're not going to know how to solve any problem. That goes for any problem. I was in the water control business. So I knew how to look for the source of the problem. And once you find the source, it's pretty easy to figure out what to do to solve the problem. A lot of people don't know. They do all sorts of expensive, what they call remedies, but that doesn't remedy it until you find the source of the problem. So there's my little onion prop, and it will hurt to peel off these layers. But when you get to the core, it's worth it. So just remember that. Okay, I'll put this over here. So I'd like to talk about how to get to the source of that problem. Like, what does it matter to me? Okay, so what we have is we have two things in our society. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry for the curved line. But we have the culture. T-U-R-E. Culture. Over here we have the culture of death. Over here we have the culture of life. Okay? Now those two things are very distinct and unique. Okay? Under the culture of death, and if you notice, I don't know if you saw this, but I was in a BBC commercial from the first conference, and I had that little spongy globe, and I was saying things like, well, there's two clips they took out of my interview. One was, and it was played, Dell had shown that and says, well, what's wrong with what she said? And that's true. But some other guy, I was on some British comedy show over there, and they showed me saying, well, you look this way, and then you look all the way to the left, and it's flat. And so they thought that was pretty funny. They put that on a comedy show. And so there was something else. Oh, I held the little squishy globe ball, and I said, well, this represents death, destruction, lies, corruption, and I listed a whole list of things. And this is something that is very important. If you are going to get interviewed, you have to record it yourself. Mac just did an interview, and he recorded it himself, and I thought that was excellent advice. When you're doing something concerning the press, you know they're going to slaughter you. They're going to edit things and make you look foolish. So you have to record it. You have to. If you're on the telephone, you have to tell them that you're recording it. Now they are recording it. So if they are recording it, well, just say, well, I am too. So I think they have to tell you. Otherwise, you would have to transcribe it. In Pennsylvania, you have to you can record it, telephone conversation, but then transcribe it and then get rid of the recording. I wouldn't get rid of it, but just don't show it to anybody. So that's the law. So where was I? So the culture of death really is the globe. So we have the globe model. Now over here, the culture of life, we have the flat earth. So what is the difference? Why did I put the globe on the culture of death model? Because the globe model is is lies. The flat earth is truth. Okay? With the globe model, we have hate. Because when you lie to somebody, you actually hate them. And don't give me that stuff about, oh, tell your wife she looks nice in that dress when she doesn't. No, that doesn't fly. Your wife always wants the truth. And don't say she doesn't. She just wants to be told she looks nice. No. No. And if your wife has bulges where she doesn't want them, then after dinner, you hold her hand and you take her for a walk every night until she gets to where she needs to be. That's your responsibility, husbands. Okay, so let me see. I know I'm going to get some hate mail on that one, but really, it's a partnership. Okay, so truth. So under truth, you have love. Okay, truth and love, hate and lies. When you tell somebody the truth, you love them. It might hurt their feelings, but you love them because you're telling them the truth in a kind way, the best way you can. Okay. The other thing is lies and hate go with death. And truth and love go with life. So, this is the recipe. This is the recipe for the culture of life. Is the way is love. The way, the truth, and the life. Where'd you hear that before? So the way here is hate. And hate can be expressed in all sorts of ways, such as abuse. Abuse. So lies, the way is hate with lies and death. So that is your globe. The globe is all about this, isn't it? This is going down to the very core. This is the core of the issue. So if you have a culture of death or a culture of life, you have to decide, well, what kind of culture do I want to live in? What do I want to have? Do I want children? I spent like 4 hours or 4 or 5 hours listening to testimony on the Hampstead case. That was over in the UK where these 2 children were abused as babies by their father and sodomized, and it was just horrendous in this school where there were Satanists. Okay? So here we'll put this down too. And over here we have, now when I go out, I teach, let me get back to the Hampstead case. They were Satanists, and over here we have the Creator. The Creator wants life protected. Here, Satanists use and corrupt. Use and abuse. And then they grow up and they use and abuse. It's a vicious cycle you can't get out of unless you follow the way of life, okay? The culture of life. So, all right. Now, when I go out, I never talk about God unless they bring it up. Now, you're saying, well, Marilyn, you can't be a Christian if you don't talk about Jesus. Well, I don't lead with that, and I'm sorry if you feel that way. I don't. I talk to a lot of people, and more I'm finding they are not huffing off and just saying it's religion and shutting down, because that's what they will do. They'll just shut right down as though a veil came right over their face. We have been so conditioned and programmed. That's what we do. Religion, oh, So if you don't mention anything religious, and that's why I say the flat earth was created by someone, something, some culture, I don't know. You figure that out. And when I tell them that they're going to figure it out, that still leaves them in charge of their own life, so they're not threatened. And it also leaves them with the open door that they should figure this out. So, all right, when you have the death culture, you have, why do they do that? So we have the government. The government, in a death culture with the globe, they want control. Okay? Now, and with the government, we are represented. We are individuals. We still have our humanity. Over here, we are just animals. Okay? Now, why does the government want to get rid of the flat earth and have the globe? Why do they want that? Well, with the flat earth, the creator is the ultimate authority. And over here, the Satanists, they want that authority. Want to be. They want to be that ultimate authority. See? And what does it say in the Bible about Satan? He was second in command. He was the most beautiful angel. And he wanted to be number one. He wanted to be God. And he was jealous of God, and he wanted to be God. So he wanted to usurp the ultimate authority. And that's why he was demoted. So he was demoted to the earth. So that's the explanation. All right, that's one explanation. If you have a different one from a different culture that sounds similar to that, it might be on the right track. Okay, now under control, I took this, and this is interesting because I took this to a meetup. And I said, okay, let's look at globe versus the flat. And I said, let's get all these things. Of course, I had these things in my mind, and I was leading them as to what they could come up with. But yeah, so we agree that a lot of these things we all came up with together. So over here we have nihilism and random. Good one. Over here we have random. Random. And chaos. Now, why did Get Smart just pop into my head? Chaos. That was the bad organization in that TV series. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So random. And over here we have order. And we have creation. And that's in Genesis. So over here, the Big Bang, right? So we have the Big Bang, and nothing exploded, and all of a sudden there was something out of nothing. Nothing comes from nothing. Okay, so that was Sound of Music. So the Big Bang, nothing exploded. All this debris went out into space. It started spinning and tumbling. Okay, even though in space there's nothing to give it any resistance in a vacuum. So I don't know what made it tumble, but just the explosion, I guess. So when you have this explosion, there's a law that says angular momentum, that says all the things that come off of this should be spinning in the same direction. But I think there's 2 planets that are supposedly spinning backwards, although we know that they're points of light. So I don't know. There's a lot to that we don't have all nailed down yet. So even the big bangers can't get it right, right? They can't even get their own theory correct. So that's what I'm saying by that. All right. With the flat earth, we have order and creation. Now, when there's an order and creation, there's a lot more, there's like peace. Peace. There's peace with order and creation. Everybody knows where they are. And with the Big Bang and chaos, you're standing on sinking ground. Sinking sand. But here you're on the rock. Where nothing changes. But here you're on sinking sand. Okay, it's like the 3 little pigs. One built his house out of straw, the other built his house out of sticks, and the other built his house out of bricks. So it's always better to have the solid structure. And in the Bible, it also says about when you're building your house, always build it on a rock and not the sand, because if the water comes along, it'll just wash away. There's stories about that, a lot of stories. Okay. Carts. I don't know why I have that. Oh, quartz. All right, here we have the quart. And the quartz. In the quartz, in our society, what do we have? We have protected interests. And here, equal justice. Okay, the Bible also talks about that when you have a wicked ruler, the people moan. This is I have personal experience with this in the courts, that when the courts and our courts in the United States are so corrupt, it is disgusting. My deposition was tampered with, and the judge said, "Oh, well, you should have figured that out 30 days after you gave it." Well, oh really? Well, I never signed off on that deposition, Judge Diamond. I never signed off on that. My attorney took a signature sheet and attached it to everything without me knowing it. So sit on that one. Be careful, people. Everybody, you've got to be very careful. When you're in the courts, it's horrible. It is horrible. And do not be afraid. Do not be disrespectful, but do not be afraid. And they had us going in circles. I'm telling you, it was horrible. We were harassed by our township, Hilltown Township. Hilltown versus Teed. So, in the Philadelphia Eastern District Courts, federal courts. All right, here we go. When you are in the courts, you have protected interest. I think in our court case, the protected interest was the insurance company, the township insurance company, and our attorney, when they figured out that the township had done all of this illegal stuff, and then I truly believe our attorney was bribed, and then he had to turn on us in order to save his own butt. So that's what I think happened. So if you want to question my interest in telling the truth, I have a very good reason to tell the truth. This is my revenge, is telling the truth. That's the best kind of revenge you can have. Just tell the truth. And let the chips fall where they may. I will never stand up for you, court people. Okay. All right, here we go. Also, I have under the courts the money rules, which also goes along with what I said. Money rules. And over here under Flat Earth, we have equal justice. All right, religion. Okay, under religion, what do we have over here? We have atheism. We have survival of the fittest. So that means, and that's because with the globe, there's no creator. So the guy in charge is whoever's got the bigger army, whoever's got more money. And isn't that funny? Because the guys that are in charge, they just print the money. I need a couple more million. Just work overtime tonight. I'll give you extra $100 in your paycheck, and you'll print me out $1 trillion. I mean, come on. They're just printing it, So they are just worms. Those people are, if they're people, I don't even know if they're really human. They might be mutants, hybrids, because they certainly lack any strength of character or humility or empathy. So when you don't have those characteristics, then you have to question if they're really human or not. Okay? So it's survival of the fittest. And what else does that come under? Survival of the fittest is the mantra of evolution, isn't it? Right? Now with Tartaria, we're finding out that we weren't cavemen. We were an advanced society. Well, how do you think that the accounts of Jesus being able to raise people from the dead and perform these healing miracles, I mean, how could he do all that stuff? I mean, that's like, really, wow. So he may have been from, Mary must have been a Tartarian. I don't know. And then you add God into that, then what do you have? Not saying that God couldn't have, Mary could have been a very unintelligent being, but it certainly sounds a little more plausible to all my atheist, friends that I'm meeting, that might have something that they could think about and chew on. So, see, but when you say that we were amoebas and then we were cavemen, that just doesn't make any sense. You don't even want to look any further. But we were cavemen. I mean, we were digging in the dirt and, building, rubbing sticks together. No, we weren't. No, we were not. We were an advanced, highly intelligent, telepathic. There was a lot there that we're not being told. I am so thankful for the internet. Knowledge is power. Aren't we getting a lot of power now just from knowing the truth? Yeah. So where am I here now? So survival of the fittest is right out of evolution. And I don't know if you know this, because I was a creationist before I even came to Flat Earth. And I ran a creationist page, and I had arguments, debates online about creation. I debated a geologist even, and I won. No doubt about it. So I was a creationist, so I knew a lot about creation. And these evolutionists, they think that, and the reason I got to this death culture was that the evolutionists think that the way to evolve man into that higher level being is by killing off all of the weak ones. Did you know that? Eugenics. So when you study that, you think, can you live in a society like that? Can you be like that? You have to make a choice. Do you want this culture of death? Do you want this evolution? Do you want to be a eugenicist? Or are you going to be over here with the creation and a creator and we have a mission or purpose or what else could we call it? We have the ability to love and share love. That's a biggie. That's a big deal. When here, all they can do is use, abuse, and hate, and just detach. They are detached. And that's something about the Hampstead case that I learned. Now, over in the United States here, we have the Franklin cover-up. And there are other child abuse, Pizzagate, all those child abuse rings, sex rings, and all that. So they're all over. It's not just the UK, believe me. But from the Hampstead case, you learn about how they, it just perpetuates. And there's a lot of they have to feed on that. They drink blood, they kill babies. And I was trying to remember what someone said about a culture that kills its own young. And I can't remember exactly what the quote was. But certainly it's not sustainable. And the reason I'm using that word is because it's an Agenda 21 word. So it's not sustainable. And the culture of life is sustainable. And it has growth in it. Now, when I say not sustainable, by itself, it won't be. It will destroy itself. And the Bible says that that's what Satan's aim, that's his goal, is to rid the world of humanity. So when you learn that and you understand that, then you try to avoid Satan and everything he wants and does. And you want to go towards the culture of life and avoid this Satan character. Not sustainable. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go one step further. And I did not come up with this word, but I think it's an excellent description. Parasitic. I hope I spelled that right. Parasitic. This is a parasitic culture. They cannot exist by themselves. They must have another culture to feed off of, because they will not grow their own food. Can you imagine a Satanist as a farmer? No, someone who has to care for animals, someone who has to plant the seeds, grow them, and care for them, cut the weeds. Usually the farmers were a majority, vast majority, were deeply religious and believed in God, and knew that nature was. They were thankful for the sun, thankful for the rain, all of that. I mean, when you think of farmers, you think of the salt of the earth kind of people. You don't think of these child abusing Satanists. So these Satanists, they cannot exist on their own. All right. The family in the Hampstead case. Okay, what am I saying? Oh, these are, this is creation and it is sustainable. Okay. So, what else do I want to cover here? The family. We have a good family structure. And over here we have abuse. Okay. Which always, usually the mother wants to protect the children. I'm saying usually. So they will probably divorce once the mother finds out that the father's abusing the kids. Oh yeah, they're not going to stay together. So medical. Okay, let me just touch on the medical thing. In the death culture, you have guinea pigs, humans, human experimentation. And over here with medical, we have natural means. Okay? So, and the Bible talks about natural health, doesn't it? It talks about He has given us everything we need, and the plants that we can use for medicines. No, pharmaceuticals do not use plants. They find the compound in the plant and then they manufacture it synthetically, and that's not the same. You always get side effects. So with this you have population control. And what is the word for population control on the death culture? Wars. And over on the life side, we are be fruitful and multiply. Okay. So there we have a pretty good idea. I wanted to read this, and I don't know if I brought my spectacles out, which I don't know if I can read this or not. So, I think I have it pretty well covered. Protecting the children, abusing the children. Oh, yeah, here we go. The type of government, okay. The type of governments we would have under this is communism. And over here we'd have representative government. Government is a good thing, okay? But I think the original Constitution is a good Constitution, but it was changed to be a corporation. And when that happened, and we weren't told, the people were not told. So when the United States Constitution was changed into a corporation, then they put in all their people, and they killed off people like presidents that didn't want to go along with them, and the secret societies. JFK's speech where secret societies in an open and free society are repugnant. So when you have these different kinds of governments, and communism, definitely, that you get a dictator in there, the first thing they want to do is destroy the churches. And let me touch on that. They want to destroy the churches because they believe that government, God's the ultimate authority, and the government wants to replace God. So that's why communism is an atheist. So now they can't destroy that, so they're going to have a world government. I mean, a world government and a world religion. And that's going to satisfy the people, right? I don't think so. I don't think so. And a lot of other people don't think so. So, what was the other thing? A tree is known by its fruit. So, how do you know who you're dealing with? There's a lot of things in our in the flat Earth movement right now. There's people there's infighting. I don't see that as bad. I see it as pruning the vine. In fact, the activists, we've come to, a parting of the ways in some of the things we're doing. I've made a stand on, I'm not going to do some things, whereas last year I was, oh yeah, let's just do everything we can, right? Now I'm being a little more selective now. I realize that I need to be more in control of the things that I'm doing because I'm very effective in what I'm doing. So I would like you all to be also effective in your own right in what you are doing, okay? And if I can help you in any way, just email marilynt@yahoo.com and I will communicate with you. The activists who all think the same way, we are going to have hangouts, and we are going to pass along our information, and we'll have call-in shows, and we'll be doing that sort of thing. But this is what I really wanted to talk to you about, is when you are doing things with other flat Earth activists, you will know the tree, what kind of tree it is, by the fruit that they produce. So just because somebody has a banner and goes out there and is talking to people, it doesn't mean that they are really a flat earther and they see the vision. It doesn't mean that they want a culture of life. It doesn't mean that. You have to be very discerning. You have to look at the fruit that they produce in order to know what kind of tree it is. And this is what you might come up with. They might have an agenda. They might have a hidden agenda. So you're going to have to be very discerning with that. I really hope that this turned out well, and I hope the video length is not too chopped off. So I'm going to end that here. And thank you so much for listening. And I hope this was beneficial to you. Thanks. Have a great day.